Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 207 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Giltaca. Thanks for joining me again today on the show. It is an action-packed episode. So, we've heard back from the Supreme Court, and I have a date on when they're going to provide that verdict on whether or not they're going to hear our case. So I've got some details to share with you there. I've got an update on the Gunnie Girl documentary that we talked about at the end of last year that we were never able to deliver because there was an election and some other things going on. But I've got some good news on that front. We've got an interview with Robert Freberg, who's the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office, to explain. It seems like there's a lot of misunderstanding around the legislation that Saskatchewan's been bringing out and the effect that it has on licensed gun owners in Saskatchewan. So we've got Bob coming on to help us parse through that. So that's really important. Some other political news, there was another floor crosser, this time not from the Conservatives. It was from the NDP over to the Liberals, plus some controversy around that anyway. And then there was some talk about elections. So we're going to speculate a little bit about when an election may be called, if it will be called, and what our options there are. We've got some other stuff to share with you, but in any case, lots of information. The CCFR Radio Podcast starts right now. Thank you so much to our great friends over at Vortex Canada. They continue to support the CCFR podcast and the CCFR. Can't say enough about them. Check out all their great products at vortexcanada.net. That's vortexcanada.net. Vortex, the force of optics. A huge thank you goes out to our great friends over at the Saskatchewan Rivers chapter of Safari Club International. They do a lot of great work over there, including supporting the CCFR and the CCFR Radio Podcast. Check out all their great work at saskriverssci.com. That's saskriverssci.com. 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿 has been a provider of trauma care training to military and police in Canada for nearly 2 decades. Now this emergency medical training is being made available to a wider audience through 𝐂𝐂𝐿's online courses. Go to 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿academy.com and use promo code CCFR30 to get 30% off. That's 𝐂𝐂𝐿𝐿academy.com. All right, we are back. Now, let's deal with the most important news first, because I think that's what a lot of you are tuning in for. So we did hear back from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is going to let us know whether or not they're going to take our case this Thursday. So if you're watching this on Tuesday and this video just popped up, I tried to do the podcast early. That means the day after tomorrow, first thing in the morning, you're going to get a ruling from the Supreme Court on whether or not they're going to take our case. So here's how this is going to go down. So apparently the Supreme Court offer like a ruling on whether or not they're going to take a case. I don't know. I thought they would just shoot you a text message or an email, right? But that's not how it works. It's the first time I've been through this process myself. So maybe they would text me an emoji, like a sad face emoji, and I would know they're not going to take the case or something. Anyway, so here's how that's going to work. The ruling is going to go live. So I think it's just like a document or a link or something on the website. That's my understanding right now. Hopefully I don't have that wrong. Is just going to pop up at 9:45 Eastern on Thursday morning, this Thursday, which is 6:45 Pacific, where I am in southwestern British Columbia. So here's how that's going to work. I'm going to be up at 5 because I'm usually up at 5 anyway. I'm going to be fully caffeinated, ready, dressed, everything. And I'm going to keep refreshing at 6:45. If I find that ruling, I will read it. Hopefully I'll understand it clearly because, again, I haven't been through this process. If not, Mr. Lohberg from Lohberg 𝐿𝐿, our general counsel, will help me, I would imagine. And if I understand it, I'm going to make a video right then and there. I'm going to send it to our social media guys. They're going to put the intro and outro to it and upload it. That video will probably be up within an hour and 15 minutes, let's say, of the ruling appearing. Because the video is going to be, I don't know, whatever, right? 2 or 3 minutes. So anyway, if you're, busy and trying to get ready for work, don't worry. There'll be a video circulating around with that update on it. So you'll know whether they're going to take our case or not. The idea that the fact that this whole thing took 8 months is weird. I've said that before. I do plenty of speculating about why that is. Nothing I'm going to share with you because it's unconfirmed. I'm probably wrong. But anyway, it's just weird. But it'll be great that at least one way or another, we're going to know. And of course, my comments will be different depending on what the reaction from the Supreme Court is, right? So anyway, stay tuned for that. An update on the Gunnie Girls documentary, right? The making of the Gunnie Girls calendar project. So if you guys remember, I was going to come out with a documentary. We filmed it and everything. All the filming was done, and it's been sitting sort of in the can, as it were. But we were talking about that. It was last Christmas, and it never got done because we had an election and a bunch of other things, right? And I obsess over those kinds of things. In the back of my mind, I'm like, you never did that, and that stuff actually eats at me. So thankfully, the project is back on. We are fortunate in that we have someone that does a lot of production work for the CCFR. They're going to finish the project. I did all the filming. I have the narrative. I've now handed it over to him, and he is going to edit the project. So it will appear on television as we wanted it to. I mean, just as long as Wild TV doesn't have anything negative to say, but they always help us with everything. So they're very good to us there. So that'll be on television, and it'll be released online, and you'll see it probably in the next 6 to 7 weeks. Okay, so that's an update on that. So everybody that was part of that whole project, I'm sure, is really glad to hear that, and I would be glad to have that out of the back of my head that it got done. All right, next, we've been when I say we, I mean the CCFR has been at a ton of shows this spring because it is show season, and I've had to attend a few shows myself. Weekend before last, we work all week plus and on the weekends most times at the CCFR. But now, in addition to that, I've been doing shows, and I know Wilson's been doing a bunch of them too, and of course all of our volunteers. So week before last, I was at the BC Sport and Wilderness Show. Then this past weekend, I was at the BC Outdoor Show, and this coming weekend, I'll be at the Toronto Sportsman Show. So in fact, after I do that video I just described, I'll be up at 5, caffeinated, ready to go, read the ruling, do the video, grab my suitcase, drive to YVR, right, Vancouver International Airport, fly to Toronto for the Toronto Sportsman Show, and I'll get back on Monday. And actually, we have a defamation case that we've been prosecuting against some folks for saying things that aren't true, which obviously nobody should tolerate. So in fact, when I get home to Vancouver on Monday, I actually have court on Tuesday for this case, and that'll be like an all-day deal. So anyway, come a week from now, well, about 8 days from when I'm recording this, then I'm going to take a couple of days off. So anyway, that's the way it's been. So it's been shows like crazy. So anyway, if you are in the Toronto area, make sure you come and see us. I will be there at the Toronto Sportsman Show this coming weekend. So will Wilson, and the CCFR itself is going to be at many other shows. There's still a few dates in the description box of this video, and for all the shows that we are attending, not me or Wilson personally, but the CCFR, we have an events calendar on ccfr.ca. Check it out. It's being updated all the time. That's something new that we're doing. So every show in Canada, and whether or not the CCFR is going to be part of it. Kind of cool. All right. Now, coming up next, I have an interview with Robert Freberg, the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office. So we're going to talk about the new legislation that Saskatchewan just passed, like literally days ago, and how it builds upon the previous legislation that Saskatchewan had passed, all in an effort to protect gun owners, to buy them time, to get them compensated if it comes to that, all that stuff. There's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to this legislation on what the point is and what it's actually going to do for gun owners. So I thought it would be a good idea for Robert and I to have this chat. So anyway, that's coming up right now. And after that, we'll bring Tracy on. All right, we are back, and via the internet, I have my good friend Robert Freberg, the commissioner of the Saskatchewan Firearms Office. How's it going, Bob?
Great. Yourself?
Well, I'm squeaking by. As I had said to a lot of people over the last weekend that I was at the BC Outdoor Show, I wish I was winning, but that's not an excuse not to fight. And the Saskatchewan government has decided they're going to continue to fight and continue to be creative and continue to leverage everything they possibly can to protect licensed gun owners from the feds. So to get started, why don't you do a couple of minutes to explain what had the Saskatchewan government done before this latest legislation? Because that's important to understand exactly what they're doing.
Well, again, back in 2020, when the OAC first came forward, I mean, the government wasn't happy in Saskatchewan with what they were seeing. So the federal government was running the CFO office. So we immediately decided to opt in. I was hired in August of 2020. And then on September of 2021, we took over the responsibilities provincially. Although it's still the federal program, we were administering it, which gave us some flexibility in some areas, but not all. We then continued on, especially as they continued to increase the confiscation and the number of firearms that were affected. We brought in the Sask Firearms Act in 2023, and a few things in that Firearms Act were relevant to what we're discussing today. One was we always believed that seizure agents, people involved in doing this, need to be licensed and properly vetted and do it in a proper manner, which included storage and the processing of these firearms and the manner in which they were being taken and a variety of other things. So we put some licensing into place, which, by the way, no one has ever applied for a license. So at this point, we don't have any licensed seizure agents in the province. Then we went further to talk about the compensation, and we stood up the ability to be able to put a claim against the federal government through what we believe our constitutional authority around property. So we've built a firearms evaluation portal, and which will be turning up later on in April for the citizens to be able to register on. And then further to that, we also put in some provisions around our ballistics lab for doing testing and evaluation of firearms, which was, again, a positive move with respect to effectively doing something versus buying guns from illegal gun owners, more targeting criminals where they should be. And again, announced some storage provisions that we looked at as well to hopefully deal with the issue where if people were offside come November of this year, that they had an ability to be able to still put a claim through and retain the firearms. But we have since made some amendments further to that legislation.
Right. So in essence, people can apply for compensation. Seizure agents have to be licensed, so nobody can really come to your door until, I guess one of the big details there is until the amnesty ends. Then possession of these firearms becomes a criminal offense, and of course, police are then actually obligated to investigate a criminal offense. So there was that big gap sitting there, and of course, gun owners are resisting this every step of the way, meaning that, well, I'm not registering them with the Saskatchewan government, nor am I registering them with the federal government. And, I get all that, but this was all heading in a certain direction, and you guys were building something. So why don't we tell the rest of the story?
Great. So basically what happened is we did put out the information back in November that we were going to be making some changes. One of the things we talked about is the storage provision by the government. And of course, we've evaluated what the cost of that is, and it's several $1 million and a lot of resources. And we did get feedback from yourself and many of your members and our own citizens in our own province saying, we don't want to see the government store our firearms, but we also don't want to be criminals. So we, again, explored other options, and we came up with the ability using 11708 in the criminal code. That's given it would provide an extreme benefit to the province of Saskatchewan to be able to have people store these firearms on their own, at which they've been doing since 2020 with zero issues. That we would just go ahead and use the 11708 exemption and basically designate people to be in the position of storing these firearms on behalf of the government. They still own the firearms, it's still their property, and they still, of course, have every ability under both using our tools with the portal, the evaluation that we will be giving them, and some other things we'll be advancing for them to bring a action against the federal government in the form of a demand letter or court to be paid for their property. And until such time as it is, it's not going to be destroyed, and it'll be remain in storage with the individuals until such time as they've actually received full compensation and or the government potentially either changes or decides that the cost of this has become excessive and it's no longer first come, first serve, it's everyone served, particularly if other provinces come on board and adopt the same regulations and rules that we have.
Okay, so very eloquently said, Bob. But for people like me, let's break this down to exactly what this means to people. So, the Saskatchewan government was going to, on behalf of gun owners, because they can, store these newly prohibited firearms so that people wouldn't lose them after the amnesty ends, and they would have, some opportunity in the future, perhaps, when the federal government changes, because eventually it will change. It might not be in a year or 2 or 4 or 8, but eventually there will be a different federal government, and and then we have another shot at it. But people wouldn't actually lose their guns, though they wouldn't be stored at their home anymore, but they would still retain ownership. Then this new legislation says, hey, do the government a favor, and the Saskatchewan government has the authority under federal law to appoint people to help the government if there's an actual tangible benefit, which is important to this working, and that is to avoid all the cost of all this storage. And so the government's saying, hey, do us a favor and store your firearm on our behalf at your home, and that can be done. So you end up having your guns at home for the duration of this ordeal, and you are eligible for compensation, including all of the peripherals, all the accessories, and of course you're protected from criminality. So that's what this means. You still can't use them, but at least you have them in your home, should there be a change or you need them.
No, that's correct. And again, the challenge around the use issues is that, again, although I might and you might enjoy using them, it's difficult for the government to articulate at this point in time what the actual perceived value of that would be to the government. Now, we could argue many things. There's a lot of creativity you can put into that, but I think just to not be colorful, we wanted to come out with something that was pretty straightforward, which we've done initially. And again, we'll go from here.
Yeah. And the Saskatchewan government has also given you an opportunity to sue the feds, because they said they're going to pay for them. Now they say they're not. And we've seen all kinds of crazy things like an 𝐥𝐿𝐴 416, which is a $4,500 rifle in Canada back in the days where, Canada was a normal country, that they're going to pay $2 for that. Just crazy stuff. And then the feds actually changed. I'm sure you're aware of this, Bob, but they actually changed their policy on the portal to say there is no appeal to the prices that they're paying. So,
well, yeah, and obviously because they got so many appeals, I think everyone they put in was appealing.
Yeah.
So again, I don't understand the whole, the point of it. And again, but the big thing is we just don't want our citizens to be criminals come November. We don't want them to be out of pocket for the property that they lawfully owned and haven't done anything, deserved anything of what's been given to them, which is nothing. So again, I think it changes the first come, first served analogy to all served. And so I think that is going to bring some reality to this, because the financial implications of this are going to be much far reaching than what they initially anticipated.
And that's an important point, just to make sure that we explain that properly. For the feds, they thought they could just pay a few people and then just walk away and, mission accomplished. The problem is, at least in Saskatchewan, they're going to have to pay for not only the guns, they're going to have to pay for all of the diminished value for all of these guns, the accessories, everything people have been through. They're going to have to pay for all that stuff. And if they don't voluntarily, they're going to get sued. And it could be 50,000 people suing them. So that is one way that you can get the government to listen to reason and start looking at other alternatives to this completely failed and ridiculous policy. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is when I tweeted this out, as it were, I guess it's not tweeting anymore. It's posting on X. When I put this out, you had a lot of frustrated gun owners, and probably some portion of them are just actual liberal trolls trying to create division in our community, because that's the net effect. But you had a lot of people just like, no, this is not a win. I want full repeal. And I think it's a function of people being really frustrated, because yelling full repeal on the internet actually doesn't do anything practical in this situation. I hate to be the one to tell people that. But the other thing is, there is a difference between the federal jurisdiction and the provincial jurisdiction. There's a difference between, there's a difference in what each entity can do. And there are a lot of people in the Saskatchewan government that have taken a lot of political risk and put in a tremendous amount of effort just to get residents of Saskatchewan this far. So maybe we can kick that around a little bit.
Well, that's what I also want to thank our government. I mean, at the end of the day, they brought me on specifically to advocate. What's that look like? Well, in the Saskatchewan's case, it's been tremendous. I mean, every step of the way, they've supported me on this, and up into including the Premier making this announcement at the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities last week. I mean, there were several thousand people there, and I wasn't there myself. I've been away, but he got a huge round of applause from the crowd and a lot of feedback from people who are ranchers and farmers and stakeholders in the rural areas of the province. They're thrilled with this. Now, again, is it ideal, and can you still take your firearms out and use them? Not at this point, but again, let's think about the long gun registry. I mean, many of us know here that the main reason it went away under the Conservative government, ideologically they didn't like it, but it was the cost. I mean, the cost of running it every year and standing it up, that was one of the things that took it away. And so I think, again, having people complain about it is one thing, but I think the other side is they have to realize by doing so, they're telling their own province and their own politicians there's no political capital in supporting this. I mean, at the end of the day, why would they do it if they're not going to get some kudos for it? So I would ask people to look at it and say, what are the options? If you think what you're doing is going to create a full repeal, then have at it. But at the same time, if you feel that this progressive approach is going to do something to maybe help your cause, then support the people that are supporting you, whether it be the political side or administrative folks, or whether it be people in the Attorney General's office and so forth across the country that are getting behind this. And I know recently at a gun show here in Saskatoon, our staff said they got a lot of feedback that was complimentary and very good from people once they understood exactly what was being done for them. So I would ask people just to take a breath, look at what it is that we're doing and see whether or not they see some advantage to it before they get on the internet and send out poison pen letters.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's really a question of people not understanding the situation they're in. And for me, I'm dramatically affected by these bans personally. And for me, the most important thing is that I can retain possession of these firearms while not running afoul of the law, so that the RCMP or the federal government or whoever their people are can't come and take these firearms from me or put me in jail as a result of me possessing them. And that's the last line of defense, is at least I still have my firearms and I live to fight another day, right? Politically. So at least residents of Saskatchewan, they're going to have that opportunity. And your provincial government has stepped up more than any other province so far in the country. And we'll see what some other see if we can't help grease the wheels a little bit in Alberta and some other provinces as well. So,
well, that's what we're hoping for, and I'm looking forward to you being my neighbor, Rod. I'm be happy to have you in Saskatchewan to go hunting and fishing and go to the range. So I mean, it'll be all good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But I was born in BC, and I kind of have an attachment. Although, you know what, we have a provincial government that's setting fire to the province and introducing new taxes and whatnot. You never know. Maybe that could happen.
Well, we're always welcome to have you or any of your listeners come to our great province. And, where I live in Saskatoon, we've got one of the nicest ranges in Canada. So we've got lots of room for expansion.
Nice. All right. Well, hopefully we've shed some light on what Saskatchewan is doing, really helped people understand the effect on the individual of what all these legislative changes mean. And hopefully that's clear now. So I appreciate you coming on, Bob. Thanks so much for your efforts. Say hi to everybody at the Saskatchewan government, and a big thank you from us and other gun owners as well for all you're doing. And I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks again, Rod, for what your organization and others have done as well. I mean, you've been great supporters and advocates for what we've been doing, and keeps us moving forward, and also getting the word out and helping to educate people. So again, thank you, and thanks to your listeners for taking time out today to have a listen.
All right, we are back in via the internet. We've got Tracy Wilson of the CCFR. Wilson!
Hey, Giltaca, look at this. I'm in my, back in the studio. I'm back in my cave.
Pretty
I like it.
awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty,
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, you're back in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you've got a unique shirt on. I haven't seen you wear that before. What's going on? Why don't you tell us?
This t-shirt was sent to me courtesy of our friends at the 𝐥𝐞𝐠𝐚𝐥 Gun Club. I don't know. I'm probably butchering it in Ontario. And they do the shoot for cystinosis. This is a rare inherited metabolic disorder. It affects kids and they're looking to raise money for research. It affects kids with their kidneys and eyes. So I support anything that has to do with research to make lives better for kids. So yeah, big shout out to them. I'm wearing their shirt. Check out their event.
Sounds like a great cause. Good work, guys. All right.
Yes.
We got to talk a little bit of politics. We've got some positive things to talk about, but we also have to talk about some challenges. So we typically don't. This is typically not a political podcast, as you guys know. We very rarely touch on politics, but we're going to have to this episode. We've got what is looking like a Liberal majority government in the making due to floor crossers, and I guess it also has to do with some by-elections as well. Why don't you give us a lowdown on that, Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, so there's been yet another floor crosser, and this time not from the Conservatives, but from the NDP. Lori Idloot, the longtime MP for the Nunavut, has crossed over to the Liberals after saying she wouldn't. Now, I'll tell you, if she was a lobbyist, she'd probably be the most successful in the country, because immediately after she crossed the floor, Carney announced $40 billion of investments in the North. So yeah, it is what it is. That did bring him one step closer to a majority government. However, April 13th, we've got 3 by-elections happening too. So I think this will put him over probably by 1. We've got Scarborough Southwest, which was Bill Blair's riding, University Rosedale, which of course belonged to your friend, Chrystia Freeland, and Terrebonne, which is a unique situation. It was a toss-up with the Bloc Québécois. It was literally, I think, like 1 vote or something apart. The courts tossed it out and said, redo it. So they're going to run again there. So that one could go either way. But he will have achieved a cobbled together, very weak majority government at the end of this, which does one thing. It makes it more difficult for him to call an early spring election and perhaps get a larger majority government. So it's good and it's bad. But whatever, this is our workspace, and that's what it's where we do battle. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, there could be a, basically the political situation for Mark Carney is, if he doesn't have every single MP that he has in caucus there for votes, he'll lose votes. So there's some risk with such a weak majority as well.
Yeah, there is, because he's not willing to make deals with anybody, which is very different from Trudeau. However, sure, he would have enough seats to pass things on his own, but that's assuming that every single member of parliament makes it in to vote. And if you're away doing foreign stuff and you're out of the country, you cannot vote in the House of Commons. So yeah, he's still not in a great position, but it does make it more difficult to call an election, saying you need, a majority from the people if you've already cobbled one together by doing backroom deals. So
we'll open this place up so you can see what's going on, hold us accountable, and contribute more directly to what happens here. We'll shift power away from the back rooms to make sure your MP will be your voice here in Ottawa instead of Harper's voice in your community.
So when it comes to Mark Carney's weak majority, he could possibly justify an election in the fall.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because the situation would be different then, right? If you've got a very weak majority government that you've cobbled together, like I said, with backroom deals, a couple floor crossings, piecing it together here and there, that's very different than a big sweeping majority that is a mandate from the people that they gave you. So I still see him kind of, having the opportunity to bring that sponge a little harder in the fall and say, look, I need a real majority. I need, tons of seats, 200 seats or whatever, and try and get it from the people then. But in the meantime, this delays that, because it's difficult to ask for something that you've already got. And I don't know what people's appetite is for an election right now. I don't know if they want it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough situation.
Mhm.
Now, something that I found unusually optimistic, and I don't think we had mentioned it at the time, but you and I had gone to the CPC convention, and you had said to me, "Hey, Damian Kurek, who was the MP that gave up his seat so that Pierre Poilievre could run there. I think it's North Battleford or something
Yeah.
like that."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Rural Alberta seat. Yeah.
yeah. Well, he had tweeted something, and you had said, "Hey, did you see what Damian Kurek tweeted?" And it
Hmm.
was the difference between the minority liberal government. This is in the last election. The minority liberal government that we got and a conservative majority government was 40,000 votes.
Yeah.
And like the distribution is important, right? Because it's, you're winning ridings. That's how you count, your seats, obviously. But if you think of it in terms of could we get 40 or 80,000 more votes after what we did last election? Is that in the realm of possibility? And I absolutely think that it is.
Yeah. It is.
So
Yeah. We
I
could
think
do
there's
it.
a reason to be optimistic.
Yeah. Well, we have to be, right? I mean, governments come and go. And I know that we haven't got the result we wanted in the last couple of elections. But at the same time, I think we've learned a lot. You have to keep moving forward. We don't have any quit in us. And he's right. It comes down to a numbers game. We're getting better at that. And yeah, we just have to keep trying. We have to do more, do it all the time, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's going to take to win.
Yeah.
If we ever want to win, we're
Yep.
not going to win by disengaging or getting on the internet and blackpilling everybody that will listen to us and stuff like that. Like it's just that's the way to 100% not ever win. Okay, so to move on, we've got a new private members bill from the
Hmm.
Conservatives, the Stand on Guard Act, and it's about
Yes.
self-defense in one's home. And
Hmm.
basically, it doesn't absolve anyone from any responsibilities for their use of force, but it just makes it so that it is more difficult for the system to drag someone through the process, even if
Yeah.
what they did to defend themselves, their home, their families was appropriate. And I think for most people, it's getting rave reviews because any opportunity we have to push in the direction of giving people rights and freedoms, I think is a good thing, but it isn't popular with everybody.
Well, this is an interesting conversation because we've said this before, 8 or 10 years ago, the conversation about self defense and whatever was almost taboo. Like it was something people weren't ready to talk about. But that's changed. And it's unfortunate because the reason that the mood and the public sentiment has shifted so much is because Canada's become a lot more violent. We see these videos of the armed home invasions. Like that is my worst nightmare. Just the thought of somebody coming into my home in my safe place where my family is and everybody I love is under one roof and doing horrible things to them. It just, you know, most people will never experience that in their lifetime, but for those who have, it is life altering, right? And we shouldn't have to deal with this stuff. But it's almost an indictment on the public safety situation in this country when, we have to consider things like this. And I think giving somebody the ability to defend their own life or the people in their care is a basic human right. I don't think it should come or go with governments, to be honest.
Yeah, that's for sure. So the part of this that really makes me angry, actually, this is kind of a sensitive topic for me. It's everyone
Mhm.
has their issues that are they're most sensitive about, and for me, the idea that somebody in Ottawa or someone that's not in my home at the time will determine whether or not I can protect myself or whether or not whether or not the system is going to hold me down so that some degenerate can come and victimize me like that gets me going. So
Oh, yeah.
and it's the elitist,
Mm.
it's the hard left elitist attitude that yeah, that one gets me fired up. So I definitely was not disappointed. It wasn't some shocking silence from the left. So you have Sean Fraser, the supposed minister of justice, comes out, and of course, he can't take the topic seriously, probably because these people believe that no one has a right to be safe other than them, right? Because they have people surrounding them
Right.
with guns to protect them. You know, they're the only ones that are deserving of that. So Sean Fraser comes out and he talks about the scenario that they see.
The second consideration is something that I hope people will reflect on seriously. There are jurisdictions who have adopted the kinds of laws that you've just described, sometimes with fatal consequences. We have seen in places like Texas and Missouri fairly recently horrific scenarios. In one instance where a young boy who was playing Nicky Nicky Nine Door was shot by someone behind a closed door and ended the life of a young boy. There are others who've shown up to pick up their siblings at the wrong house by mistake and suffered a similar fate. We have to ensure that as we adopt rules that promote public safety, we don't incentivize behaviors that will endanger the lives of innocent people who may mistakenly show up on someone's doorstep.
It's just these people prove over and over again how tone deaf and how elitist and that they are. I find it abhorrent.
Well, and this is the file actually where they are most vulnerable because, of course, public safety we've got 10 years worth of evidence. You know, the evidence is clear and it's overwhelming that they have failed at public safety. Canada's never been more dangerous. There's more home invasions, more gun crimes, more illicit guns, violent repeat offenders getting out on bail. They've created this whole messy problem. And the idea that you would take it into your own hands to protect yourself or your family is abhorrent to these people, right? So, yeah, Ruby Sahota had some commentary on that as well. You know, we don't want people to think they have the right to shoot and kill somebody. And it's like, well, you know, if in a certain situation you should, if they were hurting your kid or your wife or whatever. Yeah, like I don't know. It's just shows how out of touch they are with the experiences that people are having out there. Not everyone, but the people who have been victimized, right?
Yeah, well, it shows how out of touch she is because you actually have the right to shoot and kill someone if
Mhm.
you, under certain conditions, right? Laid out in the criminal code,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And those conditions are quite clear. And you will end up going through the process, but you'll probably be found innocent if you met all those conditions, right? If your use of
Yeah.
force was proportional to the threat, if you had reason to believe that you'd suffer grievous bodily harm or death, or someone under your protection would certain, like there's all these qualifiers. You absolutely can't be, and people have done it in Canada
Yes.
and have, had charges drop. But the Crown, for some reason, just charges these people. They just are just aching to charge them and run them through the system and cost them 60 grand. And you're on bail for 3 years and you probably lose your firearms license, and that's your firearms. And you're just absolutely victimized by the system for what? Not complying with criminals or just taking a knee and letting them end your life. It's really wild.
Well, for me, I think we have to look at it, you have to pick a side. Either you side with law abiding citizens who are contributing and just trying to live their lives, raise their families, go to work, do their thing, take care of their house, water the garden, normal things. Or you side with the people who come in to those spaces with the intention of hurting you, taking your stuff, whatever, right? Like, choose a side. And it's pretty clear to me that the Liberals have chosen a side on that. They've put forward legislation in the past to reduce the sentences for some very serious violent offenses, including with guns. And at the same time, just scoff at the idea that you would want to protect yourself or your family. So yeah, choose a side. And they've made it very clear they have.
Yeah. Well, and that's not
Yeah.
new for them. They've always been on
No.
the side of criminals. It's really wild. I don't know how people tolerate that, but whatever. Like I said, I know I've gone on and on about it because that is one of that is a particular topic that I feel
You're
very
triggered.
strongly about, right? Like people
Yeah.
every human being has the right to fight for their lives.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to.
no matter how you look at it, and you look at it a lot of different ways, everyone has the right to fight for their lives. But anyway,
Yeah.
okay. On to something else. And it's important. National Range Day is coming up. And
Yes.
people across the country, members of gun clubs should be starting to talk to their gun club executive about what they're going to do, what kind of open house or ladies' day or kids' day they should be holding for National Range Day.
Yeah, I spoke with the executive for my club yesterday. I know they had already emailed me once and I'm busy and I didn't get back to them. But yesterday I got back to them. We started nailing down our plans and what we're gonna do and a call out for volunteers and get all that stuff going now. It'll make planning a lot easier. If you need a little advice, go to nationalrangeday.ca. Everything you need is there. But yeah, now is the time to start talking to your gun clubs, talking to your fellow members and getting stuff rolling, getting organized. June 6th, 2026. That's your date. So
Yeah.
it's coming.
Yep, and to hold these open house days, yeah, I was working a show, BC Outdoor Show this past weekend. Talked to a couple of ranges, Mission Rod and Gun, Ridgedale. There's a couple of local ranges in the Fraser Valley there, and these both of the ranges were talking about some of the programs that they have, whether they're these ladies' days that this big ladies' day that Mission Rod and Gun Club hold every year, which sells out in 3 hours, like getting concert
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah,
And
literally a famous ladies range day.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is awesome. And some of the other programs from some of the other ranges. And whenever I talk about it with people, I'm telling them like, this is important work. And you may be like, yeah, it's a big event for our club, but in the big picture, it's like, no, in the big picture, it is important work because when people
Yeah.
have a dog in the fight, when they're being affected by bans and rhetoric and these hate campaigns that the government goes on to make people, hate licensed gun owners, oddly enough, instead of criminals. Like when you're affected by that stuff, you're far more likely to oppose it. And that could mean voting in elections, that could mean writing letters, that could be withholding support for certain candidates. Like it's important. It's really important work.
Yeah.
So
Well, we always say it is the easiest way to influence somebody's opinions about guns and gun ownership is to get them out to the range. And even if every range event you do, you change the opinion of one person, it's worth it. It is the best way to secure long-term sustainable change on the firearms file if we ever want to stop being a football, right?
yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing on our list is the CCFR AGM. That's coming up in May. And
Yes.
tickets are on sale. And tell us about it.
Yeah, May 23rd, we will be gathering in Toronto. I'm really looking forward to this. My girl, 𝐿𝐿𝐿 is coming. She's going to come and speak. You and I are going to do an Ask Me Anything. And then we've got Officer Randy Arsenault. I don't know if you guys know him, but he, during COVID, I always called him the TikTok cop because he just made these awesome videos. He's an inspirational speaker, a public safety expert, and just an all around nice guy. So, we'll be doing a fireside chat with him. We're going to have swag for sale there. We're going to have the laser range set up. If anyone wants to come out and lose to me, I'm perfectly happy to see that happen. There'll be some challenges, some prizes, and just a great meal and, just a really great opportunity to get together with our members, with each other, and have a little bit of fun. And of course, there's the business meeting in the morning with all the boring stuff, the books, the numbers, the department updates, all of that stuff. So everything you need to know about the AGM and how to get there and where to stay and all the things can be found at ccfragm.ca.
So you're saying all the
That's it.
things will be on ccfragm.ca?
Yeah, I mean, you can get your tickets, you can book your hotel, like all those things.
All the
Yeah.
things?
All the things you need to know about the CCFR AGM is at ccfragm.ca.
All of them? Let's keep this going for a while. Okay.
Uh,
All right.
Rebecca.
Okay, that's our list, man. We covered it.
Okay. I just wanted to mention, I got one other real quick thing.
Sure.
If you go to ccfr.ca, there's a little web story I made there called Dear Premier. And this is in an effort. I'm sure a lot of you watching this have seen the efforts that Saskatchewan's put forward. Bob went through them earlier. If the idea is to get our other premiers in other provinces to consider doing the same, we've all got to get behind that and push. I'm going to be reaching out to all the premiers, or some of them I already have, in an official capacity, but I need your help. So I need you guys to write into your local premier and ask them to consider taking the steps to stand up for you. There's a form letter there that you can use. Try and make it your own so they don't all sound the same. But the basic idea is there and you can use whatever you want out of it. Excuse me. I've included the draft legislation so you can share that with your premier. And there's a link you can click there for all the contact info to get a hold of the premier of your province. If everybody does this and they hear from me and then they hear from all of you guys and they're like, okay, let's have a look at this. We can continue to push against that and hopefully make change before October. So I need your help.
Okay, that's awesome. And that's a good point that you
Yes.
you put that up as a news story on ccfr.ca. That's where you can
Yeah.
go find it. All the instructions are there. So it's one of those things, right? If you want to get change, you want to do anything, it requires everybody to do just a little bit of work. You don't have to do a lot of work, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like write a letter or what have you, right? These small things, but these small things make a difference. So anyway, check
Yeah. You
that
can
out.
send it by email or snail
Mhm.
mail or call their office. All the information to get a hold of them is there. But if they see an increase in pressure, it's harder to ignore than just ignoring my email. Right.
Yeah.
So I need you guys to push with me.
Awesome. All right. So everyone, please do that and do it at your earliest convenience. I think that's it for the list, correct?
Okay. Yeah, that's it. My list is done.
All right. Well, thanks for the update and we will see you next time.
All right. We'll see you then.
All right. That's going to do it for episode 207 of the CCFR radio podcast. I was just checking there. That is episode 207. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. Really appreciate it. Make sure you share the podcast, get everybody that you possibly can involved. Talk to your people at the gun club, talk to your hunting buddies, talk to people at church. This is a numbers game. We talked about this in this episode. Winning an election and winning this fight is a numbers game. And if we don't increase our numbers, we aren't ever going to win. But is it doable? Absolutely. We talked about this too. 40,000 votes the difference between a liberal minority government and a conservative majority government. Could we do 40,000? You bet we could. We absolutely could do that, right? So is this winnable? For sure it is. Don't let the seat count fool you, right? Because that has more to do with vote distribution. We could get another 100,000 votes if we all put in a little bit of work. So if we get another shot at an election, that can happen. All right. The Dear Premier project, that Tracy's mini project, go to ccfr.ca, read that story, take part in that, please. Provinces like Saskatchewan that are doing things, you can use that to pressure your province to do something at least. And the CCFR can talk to all these people, that's great. But if they're getting 1,000 letters or 800 letters from people who live in that province, that's important. That's really good work. And it takes you, half an hour to do that. Really important that we all do a little bit of work, right? If you think about all the time you spend doing all kinds of different things, and I'm an extremely ridiculously busy person, I would scrape up a half an hour to do that. So really important. Okay. The other thing is consider becoming a member of the CCFR. We can do these big things like doing attack ads during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Whoever thought, and I know you guys have heard me say this before, whoever thought the gun lobby would ever be in a position to do that? We can do these big things because people are supporting us. So you can become a member for $40 a year, comes with $5 million worth of insurance, or you can donate to the CCFR and get free entries into the It's Raining Guns contest. You got 100 chances to win. It's the biggest gun contest in the history of the country. 100 guns. It closes on May 1st. Make sure you read all the contest details before entering. All right, so thanks for that. Okay, here comes this conversation. And some people are going to be mad. And I'm going to single some people out too because they have it coming. Okay. When Bob and I talked in the interview that we did in this episode, Bob and I talked about this a little bit, but it's, there's this thing I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. I even tried to script out a video and I'm like, I got other things to do. But so now I'm just going to talk about this off the cuff. So I'm going to do it as quickly as I possibly can. Probably going to take 10 minutes. Heads up. All right. So when Saskatchewan released that legislation, I went onto social media. I posted the video of their release, and I said, "Hey, it's great. Saskatchewan is doing, they've done by far the most of any province to try to hold these feds back or whatever." And I posted that. I went back and I looked at some comments, and there's some people going like, "This is the way to do it. This is awesome." As Tracy and I talked about, and as Bob and I talked about, people are like, hey, Doug Ford, or hey, David Eby, how about some of this or whatever. But then there was negative comments. And I've seen these types of comments before, and I've seen these accounts before. And basically, you have Saskatchewan that are moving heaven and earth to do everything within their jurisdiction, every bit of creativity that they've used to figure out a way to interfere with the feds. And if they can't stop it or delay it long enough, at least you're going to get 3 times the money that you probably would have if you had just gone and cooperated with the buyback. You have as an individual an opportunity to sue the federal government. And you're going to keep all those guns at your house right where they are right now in case you needed them for something, right? And all that. And then there's people running in there going, this is not a win. Oh, this is a disgrace. This is still confident. How is this helping me? Even one, and it was the guy that did, this is not a win, got on this. These people take to the internet to screech things like full repeal. This is not a win, full repeal. Like getting on the internet and screeching full repeal, not even just to nobody, but seeking out the province that has done the most of any provinces, because this is how these people's minds work, right? They're like, who are the leaders here? Who are doing the most work? Because there's a lot of people doing absolutely nothing. There's a lot of groups doing nothing, like zilch, zero, nothing, but talking about doing things, but not actually doing anything. There are provinces sitting back watching all this happen, watching Saskatchewan doing everything that they can and doing nothing, right? They don't go to their accounts. They're looking around for who's doing the most work. So what do? They go to Saskatchewan. This is not a win, full repeal. It's like, dude, I can't think of anything more useless than screeching full repeal on the internet, especially directed at Saskatchewan, who's doing all the work. And what account were they screeching this at? The CCFR's account. The only group that did anything in the last election, the most important election in a generation. And we are number 7 in the country for third-party advertising. As I said, we showed ads during the Stanley Cup playoffs, man. We did everything humanly possible. Things that the gun lobby was never, ever going to be capable in history if it weren't for the CCFR of doing. Like, not even close. Okay? What do? They go to the CCFR's account to screech that. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is you look at people like that, you need to understand what it is you're looking at. There's really two groups of people that you're looking at. One is paid liberal agitators. And that stuff works. It gets us fighting with each other. Because people that go, oh my God, why are you doing this on the CCFR's account, or Rod or Saskatchewan? Why? You're just a cuck and, blah, 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 right? These are agitators. So either they are paid by the Liberal Party, I don't know that, but either they are, or they're foreign governments, or they're just liberal volunteers, people that are just like, just hardcore brainwashed zombie leftists that are there, just there. And that stuff works on a lot of people, right? That agitation, that creating conflict and creating division and simulating infighting in the community, that stuff works, right? So if you're kind of a passive observer, understand what you're looking at. That's either that's what you're looking at, or you are looking at an actual gun owner in some place in Canada that is an actual centrist or right-leaning or right-wing conservative individual. And if it's that person, then what you're looking at is you're looking at someone who just can't take the pressure. They're done. They've given up. They can't take the heat, but they're not just going to leave the kitchen. No, because there's a thing that happens with human beings, and that's just part of who we are, right? And everyone has this compulsion, but some people can't control it, like these people, right? These are the weakest among us, intellectually, right? Spirit-wise, morally. Because what happens to people is they can't just give up and walk away by themselves, because something in the back of their mind goes, am I just weak? Am I just giving up? No. If I can convince other people to do it, then I can go from being just a weak person that can't take the pressure to a leader. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go to any public forum I possibly can, and I'm going to criticize the people doing all the work. And if I can get people to agree with me, I can actually feel good about myself by giving up instead of feeling like a failure, right? That's how that works. And there's an old adage that has existed for as long as people have existed. Misery loves company. And that's why that saying exists, because people can't just give up or be miserable, whatever, on their own. They always want to spread it around. So if you're one of these passive observers that saw that, like I looked at it and I'm like, this can't be a gun owner, or this is someone in crisis, right? It's like, man, if you're seeing that stuff, don't buy into it, right? Because that's just tearing us apart. And if you're one of those people, I will tell you this. If you're, and it's funny because I hear from guys like that, right? These black-pilled people, I've been talking about them a little bit lately because they are the enemy within our own movement, right? Those guys will justify their behavior in a number of different ways. Now, I'm not going to go into all of it, but I'll give you an example. Guys are like, no, we gotta let this whole thing collapse so that the liberals can see what they've created, and until they suffer more, they're not going to ever, wake up or whatever. That's my excuse to do nothing, or to play an active part in getting the liberals reelected and getting all the guns taken, because that's what you're doing. If you've given up and you go away quietly, fine. You can't take it, that's okay. And I get it. I've been under a lot of pressure for 10 and a half years to be in a worse position when it comes to my guns than when I started. How discouraging do you think that is? How much do you think I want to get out of here? I've been planning an exit from the CCFR for 2 years, man. But I can't seem to let it go because I'm not going to hand them the win. When that's going to happen, I don't know, right? But I'm just like, I still got fight left in me, man. So I'm not going to give up yet, right? So if you're one of those people, you can play a part in wrecking everything for everybody, right? Because you can't control yourself. You don't have the self-discipline to just go suffer on your own. You want to bring other people down. You want to wreck everything for everybody. And it's weird. It's a weird, destructive thing. So I would suggest you either just find some fight in you, find a backbone again, and keep on fighting and encourage people to hang in there. That would be far more productive than screeching into the universe full repeal, as if that's ever going to happen with this government in place, right? Or without having more pressure, like having them have to pay every resident of Saskatchewan 3 times, but every single person, or being sued by 20,000 people, which is enabled by their legislation. You don't think that we would be better off, more likely to get a full repeal if 20,000 people in Saskatchewan sued the federal government for full compensation, if they had to fight all of those lawsuits or start a class action? You don't think that would be better? So go suffer by yourself if you don't got what it takes to stay in the fight, and that would be great. But stop trying to spread your misery and get other people to quit. Like, who are you working for? You know what I mean? Even if it's just for yourself because you're broken. Think about that. And you know what? There is no shame in looking, because I reflect on my failures all the time. I sit there and I'm like, okay, did you win that one? You didn't. Why? Do you want to keep losing or do you want to change? I'm like, I'm not doing that again. That was a mistake. I do it all the time. I made piles of mistakes, man. So maybe this is your opportunity to just sit back and go, you know what? Damn it, that guy, he's right. I was out there trying to spread misery, and Saskatchewan is doing everything they can. The CCFR is doing everything. It's not even an opinion, man. You can just go to the website and read it. Go click Why Join, you can read it all right there. We write it all down for you, man. You don't even have to guess, right? Look at who's doing all the work and support those people somehow, even if you're just supporting them morally with your words. That helps too. And the other thing you can do, if that's too much for you, that's fine. But vote. If it's too much for you, if it's too much to ask, more than, you're asking for more than we can give right now, to spend 40 minutes to just go down to the elementary school and vote once every 2 to 4 years and put your, even if you're biting your tongue, put your little X by the Conservatives so you don't split the vote, to ensure that the Liberals get in yet again, maybe another 3 or 4 times. Maybe you can bring yourself just to do that. If you're not part of the solution, just get the hell out of the way, I guess, is the message, right? So anyway, again, in summary, thanks for listening. I appreciate that. If you're seeing that kind of stuff, understand what you're looking at and just sweep these people aside. Keep fighting or they are going to win. It is a 100% chance that we will lose and the Liberals will win it all if we stop fighting right now. 100% chance. If we keep fighting, there's some non-0% chance that we might win eventually. Like, that's just what it is. So it's a pretty easy choice to me. Anyway, that's what I got. So sorry if that was a little bit uncomfortable. It is what it is. I just kind of almost had to get that off my chest because I've been thinking about it for a while. And I think we should all be lifting each other up, and we have to keep going. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your kids, do it for the next generation. Because man, if the Liberals keep winning, Canada's not a place you're going to want to be. So anyway, and don't give me any excuse like, well, independence, like you don't have it yet. And if independence fails, you're stuck in this country. And if the states don't come up here and turn us into the United States, then you're going to have Carney as your prime minister probably for the next 10 years. So think about that a little bit and do the math, write it all down, and make some decisions. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care. And we will see you on Thursday for the Supreme Court announcement. Let's hope. Take care.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.